What if I told you that traveling the world with kids is less about the destination and more about unpacking life lessons amidst the unexpected costume changes and script diversions? Life on the road while performing and mothering has taught me a lot. And in today's episode, I'm sharing my top tips for traveling with little humans. Let's get into it. Welcome to Star Potential, a podcast where we explore the meaning of our existence while having a few laughs and sometimes tears through stories from the road of life. I'm your host, Julie Jo Hughes. As a stage performer, my life is quite literally about song and dance. I believe that life here on Earth is a playground for discovery, not a contest to be won. We ask questions together like, how do I evolve my consciousness? And how do you sing a passionate ballad when there's an old guy in the front row with his balls showing? True story. Stick around for these fun conversations. Welcome back to Star Potential. I'm your host, Julie Jo. I was thinking about what are some things that I've learned along my journey that I could share with you. And normally when I come to you in my solo episodes, you may or may not realize that I typically am completely unscripted. I step into the studio with an idea or some sort of inspiration that is ready to come through me. And sometimes I have a couple of bullet points for myself just to keep myself on track with main points I wanted to hit. But typically, I have an idea of where I want to go, and I just speak to you from my heart. And there's not a lot of planning and prep that goes into the actual content, the meat of the episode. I like to let it free flow through me, and that tends to be how my best work comes out. But I recently took a long flight from East Coast United States to the West Coast United States. So I was performing in Atlantic City, New Jersey, and I was flying back home to the OC in California. And I jotted down some life lessons that I've learned along the way through traveling with my children. So while I have been a performer basically my entire life, I also knew that I wanted to have a family and be a mom at some point. That became, I think I always knew that, but at some point when those two kind of worlds started merging, basically I had met Bronislav, and at the time it became apparent that we were going to start our own family together. We were going to get married. One day we would have children. As that part of my life began to take shape, during this time I was also expanding in my career, living in New York City, and constantly unveiling new opportunities every day and jumping in and experiencing those opportunities and experiencing all that life had to offer me. And along that journey, made connections, made friends. Shout out to Michael Lynch, who's also known as Big Mike. You might know him from season 4 on American Idol, but he was actually a personal trainer with my husband Bronislav at Equinox before Bronislav and I had ever met. And one day, as these are one of these fun synchronicities I love to talk about, as we're walking around our neighborhood in Astoria, Queens, we ran into Big Mike at the grocery store, of all places, and Bronislav introduced us. He said, "Oh, this is my wife. She's a singer. Like, you guys probably have a lot in common, or, maybe she can help you out sometimes when you need a girl singer," stuff like that. And it wasn't too long before Mike actually called me. He said, "I've got something in mind that I think you're perfect for." Now, I had sent him some videos of me performing and things, but we had never actually performed together at this point. And he actually got my foot in the door and helped me book a bunch of gigs where I got to travel all around the world as a guest vocalist with symphony orchestras. And basically, we were a part of several different shows where we would come in as the guest vocalist, and wherever the maestro, the conductor of the orchestra, was traveling, the show and the cast, which was us, would go with him. And so orchestra gigs tend to book about 18 months in advance. And so my calendar had booked several of these gigs where I was going to be traveling around internationally as a guest vocalist with the show. And I did not know at the time that over the next several months, uh, I became pregnant with our first baby. And so now with all these traveling gigs on the calendar, I wasn't sure what does that look like. I had never had a baby before. I didn't really know how that works, but I knew I wanted to breastfeed. I didn't have any family nearby, so it seemed like the only option for me was to take the baby with me on the road. And as it would turn out, the very first orchestra gig that I would play would be when my baby, whom I didn't know yet, would be about 4 months old. And so, of course, I talked with management to see if this was feasible, if I could make that happen. And over the course of that first year, whatever city I was traveling to, I would buy a plane ticket for one of my family members. First, it was my mom. My aunt came once, my grandma came, and we found lots of ways to fly a family member to whatever city I was going to be in, and they would stay in my hotel room with my baby. And I would go to rehearsals, I would go to performances, and in between, I would come back to my room and I would breastfeed and I would be with the baby. And it was just amazing. I really was having my cake and eating it too. I got to be a mom and I got to travel all around the world doing what I love. And it was just the coolest thing. By the time our son was 1 year old, he had taken 17 flights. That's more than a lot of adults take in their entire life. And he was just the best and still is. He's still my favorite person in the world to travel with. But he's just such an amazing traveler. The funny thing is, because we lived in New York City, we didn't even own a car until he was about 3. We started desiring, hey, maybe it'd be fun to have a car and be able to go outside the city on the weekends sometimes. And so he thought that the way you got around the world was in taxis and walking and taking the subway. And when you went to see grandparents or any kind of family members, you took a plane. When you go to work, you take a plane. That's what he thought. And I remember at one time he made some comment like he didn't realize that people owned cars. He thought whenever you go someplace, you either take a flight or you hail a cab. And he was such a cute little traveler. We have the cutest videos of him hailing cabs saying, Daddy. They're so cute. Maybe I can share those somewhere, but I'll have to get his permission first. But I learned so much about traveling with kids that now traveling solo is just nothing. Like if you can travel with babies all over the world, then traveling by yourself is just nothing. And now as he got older and there were lots of times that, Bronislav was bringing home the majority of the bread for the family at this time because my priority had shifted to raising the baby and raising the babies when the second one was born. And after I became a mother, I realized how much my mother-in-law must miss being able to have constant contact with her son that was all the way across the world in America. And each time we would visit his family in Serbia, I felt that longing of her heart. And so but really I had this intense desire and intention to make sure that we visited his mom and his family in Serbia at least once a year. And, there were some years when that was harder to do than others. We had to prioritize, we had to make decisions based on those priorities as far as financially and with our jobs. We had to make that happen. There were certain jobs that I had to say, I will accept this only if it's with the understanding that once a year I go and visit family halfway across the world. I'm going to be gone for at least 2 weeks. If that's a deal breaker, this isn't going to work for me. And so we made that a priority, but it also meant there were several trips when Bronislav just felt he could not get away that year for various reasons and wanted to stay home and work. but gave me his blessing and basically the family finances. And it was my idea. He never had forced this upon me, but I said, what if I just took the kids to see your mom? I think it's important that we touch base with them at least once a year. For one thing, there's a huge language barrier. Our kids don't speak Serbian, and our Serbian family doesn't speak English. I think it's really important that at least once a year we have that contact where we can both kind of interchange our language a little bit. It helps the kids understand the culture, where you came from, where they came from. And so there were also several trips where I flew by myself with the kids halfway around the world to Serbia and stayed for weeks at a time where no one spoke English, and my Serbian was very broken and kind of elementary level, but I got better each time. And so even immersing myself in another part of the world where I didn't speak the language, but I had family. I knew when I was there, I would be received with love. And my intentions of why I was going there were coming from love, because I wanted the kids to have this connection with their family over there. And I wanted their family to not miss out on them growing up. I wanted them to be able to have time with them. And those trips are so, so valued. And we continue to prioritize that every year because it's just so special getting that time together. I intend to make it possible that we can go even more often sometimes. But the point of all this is to give you a little bit of my background and how it is not my first big camp out when it comes to traveling with kids. And the interesting thing is, by being somebody who has traveled all over the world with children and while working and all these various factors, it's actually taught me a lot about life and how we interact with people around us. So whether you're a parent or whether you're just a human looking to coexist in this world with other humans, here are some of the insights that I have gleaned from these travels. And as I mentioned, I normally just speak off the cuff, but on this 6-hour flight that I had a couple days ago, it gave me a chance to reflect, and I started jotting down some of these insights that I have learned by traveling with my kids all over the world. And I wrote them down. So those of you watching the video version, you will see me reading from a paper this time, which is a different style for me. But these are some of the insights that I jotted down for you. 1, don't overpack, but do think ahead to make things go as smoothly as possible. Have some dry napkins, some wet wipes, and a spare set of clothing, including underwear. And I'm going to tell you a couple stories as we go through, not with each insight, but this one I have to tell you. We had already been to Serbia. It was the 2 kids and me. Greta was just a baby at the time, so Elliot was probably around 4 or 5. And we ended up getting stranded in Germany. Now, because we weren't supposed to be stranded in Germany, we were supposed to just take a quick connection and come on home to the States. As it turned out, they wanted us to go and stay in a hotel somewhere for the night because we had like 12 hours or something until our next flight. Now, because we suddenly had to enter the country, suddenly it was a problem that I didn't have a form signed from their father stating that it was okay to travel with them. I had traveled many, many times with Elliot back and forth to Serbia by myself before. I did not realize that this was documentation that I needed. No one had ever asked me for documentation from his father. And as I sat talking with the German officer explaining that this is my husband's family that I came to visit, and we had already been there. Now we're just trying to get home to their father. And after he called my son a, quote, little terrorist, yes, and I tried not to lose my shit on him for that. I had been so calm up to this point, and that will lead into other insights as we go. But I suddenly was stranded with I had packed changes of clothes for the kids, of course, which I had also learned along the way, but I didn't pack spare clothing for myself. And let me tell you, after about 48 hours in the same underwear, I learned you should always pack a spare change of underwear. Okay, so there's that one. Here's the next insight. Don't eat terrible food right before you travel. Make sure you pack snacks. So here's the fun story from that one. We had a quick touchdown in some country. I don't even remember where. Elliot thought he was starving. He didn't want any of the snacks that we had packed in the backpack. This time I was traveling with Bronislav, so it was the three of us. And we bought him a hot dog because kids love hot dogs, right? Don't feed your kid a hot dog in a foreign country right before you're going to get on a 10-hour flight. Yeah, I ended up with that hot dog all over myself. That was another time I learned don't just pack a change of clothes for the children. Make sure you've got a spare set of clothing for yourself as well. Now, remember, these are all insights about traveling, but you can also kind of use these as insights for life as well. Here's the next one. Always have a water bottle. You don't want to be forced to buying a $10 bottle of water in the airport, and there are always places to fill up your water bottle. So that's just good advice in general for not wasting plastic, for not wasting your money on water. There's water lots of places. Just have a refillable water bottle, okay? We never go anywhere without our refillable water bottle. Next, accept help when it's offered. Be self-reliant, but don't be afraid to ask when you do need help. When you are traveling alone with two kids in international waters or international flights, you will have people seeing you struggle. And if you're like me, your pride goes, I got this. I've done this a million times. I don't need anyone's help. But I'll tell you what, when that nice man offers or a nice lady offers, can I hold this bag for you while you put the baby carrier back on and then put the baby in there? Like, just let them help you. Maybe don't hand them your child, but if they're offering to just help you put your bag up above, accept the help. Just say thank you. Don't worry about your pride. We know you can do it by yourself, but if someone is offering, let them help you. All right, next. This goes back to the story with the German officer, too. When you remain calm and happy, they do too. Now, the they in this case was actually referring to the children. That's such a big one. I would have to say this is probably my biggest tip from traveling with children. I see parents all the time, and it's not with judgment. It's just with awareness that I see the kid starting to lose it. The kid gets antsy. They're tired. They're hungry. It's the way that you're feeling when you're traveling. Now, imagine how a little person feels when they are experiencing those same feelings, and they weren't the one that decided to travel. You did. And they're not really in control here. And they're experiencing all kinds of feelings. And when they explore those feelings in the form of a tantrum or crying or screaming, when you show them that those feelings are not tolerated or not welcome, it doesn't help them to feel seen and accepted and loved. They feel like they are being unaccepted. They feel like they're being unloved. And so, in my opinion, I see parents often doing the worst thing that they can do when their kids get dysregulated, and that's that they allow themselves to become dysregulated as well. And again, this isn't coming from judgment. This is coming from a mom that's been there many times myself. I feel myself getting dysregulated because I'm also tired and hungry and worn out. But when the kids start having a meltdown, you have to find that deeper place inside yourself that recognizes how they're feeling and says, "Ooh, I know it is a long day, but guess what?" And then find a diversion. So help them redirect their energy. Don't dismiss it. And by no means punish them for having their real feelings about it. Okay? So first, that they that I was referring to, when you remain calm and happy, they do too. That's the biggest one. The kids are looking to you to see how are we reacting to this situation, mom or dad, and they want to see how you're reacting. And if you're calm and like, yeah, this looks like we're spending an extra day in Germany. It's all in the delivery of it, right? The kids are like, oh, okay, that's cool. I remember after we got through the whole German officer thing, I was able to turn it around and make it a fun thing. We ended up sitting in this hotel lobby. There was some live music. We ordered some appetizers, and the kids talked about that fun. Well, Greta was just a baby, but she talked about it in her own way. Elliot loved the party that we had in the airport hotel lobby. And he thought that was such a cool thing that we got to have a party in Germany that we weren't expecting to have. You see how it was all in the perspective of it. If I would have been stressed out and complaining, then the kids would have been doing the same thing. So, but it's not just them. It was also in that moment with that German officer, I felt really triggered when he asked me if my son was a little terrorist and accused me of trying to take my children away from their father and fly across the world. Instead, I decided I had to relate to him and see it from his point of view, that he was just doing his job. And so I had to take a deep breath and say, no, my son has just had a very long travel day. I apologize for any inconvenience that his not wanting to stand here in line is causing you. But I can assure you that I have had a wonderful time taking my children to visit my in-laws in Serbia. We're on our way home now, back to their father. Here's his phone number. You can call him right now. All of this information is listed for you. I'm sorry that I did not get a travel document. He threatened to take my children away from me and detain me. And all I could do in that moment was remain calm. And I said, I understand that you are just doing your job. I would plead with you to, if we can find a way that we can connect with their father, or that we can do something in that realm, so that my kids and I can just get a few hours of rest before we come back to the airport and get on our flight to go back home. And I believe that because I was able to match him with a calm energy and not with a fighting energy, he suddenly had a little shift. It's not like he suddenly became this warm, wonderful guy, but he did say, don't ever come through Germany again without this documentation. I said, yes, sir, I understand. Thank you very much. He let us go on our way. So when you can remain calm, happy, and loving and speaking from your heart, others tend to do the same. Here's the next one. When meltdowns happen, look where a fundamental need might not be met. Hunger, thirst, warmth or coolness, dryness, safety, rest. These are fundamental needs, right? They might be yours, they might be the children's, but often our meltdowns are coming from one of those fundamental needs not being met. It goes back to when the kids are babies and they're just crying. And it's like, what do you want? What do you need? I don't know. It sounds like the Jerry Seinfeld. I don't know what you want. I've already fed you. What do you want? But, often it's hard because babies don't have a way to communicate. But we have to remember that we all respond to our fundamental needs not being met. So before you yell at your kids for having a meltdown, try to do some detective work. Figure out which fundamental need is not being met right now. Okay? And if it's you, do that same detective work for yourself. Oh, I haven't eaten in hours. I had a complete blood sugar crash in some international airport. I don't even remember where we were, but it was in the middle of a big day. Again, we had gotten some delay and cancellation, and we ended up waiting a lot longer than we thought we were. I had packed all kinds of snacks for the kids. I didn't pack anything for myself. And as we were trying to sprint from one terminal to the other, I suddenly couldn't walk. Everything went black. I not fell down like pass out, but I knew instinctively I was about to pass out. So I sat down, and Bronislav had to go and buy me some kind of like an energy bar or something. And we had to sit there for a few minutes. We didn't really have time for that, but we had to make time for it. So remember that your fundamental needs have to be met in order for smooth travel as well. The next one, spontaneity. Roll with the punches. Bring fun surprises or splurges to enjoy. Now, this is mainly for the kids. So, when you've got a long trip ahead of you, one of the best things you can do is pack surprises. Don't give everything all at once. One thing I used to do with my kids was let's say we had like a 6 hour flight or a 10-hour flight. So, depending on the length of the flight, I would decide every 90 minutes to 2 hours, we would pull out a new surprise. These don't have to be large things. Sometimes it was a new deck of cards. Sometimes it was a cool little magnetic game I had found, or a suction game that sticks to their tray table. Sometimes it's just another activity book they've never seen before, or a new set of crayons. But if you can have a few little surprises, and the kids will ask you, how much time till the next surprise? And you go, oh, we've only got 40 minutes till the next surprise. Let's play with this one for a while. It also helps them have less screen time. And no judgment of screen time on long flights. You utilize those screens as much as you need to. But with really little ones especially, I know that for my kids, they're not used to having extended amounts of screen time. And so if I were to suddenly give them free rein to have screen time the entire flight, they're going to get super dysregulated at one point. And so we're just borrowing energy up front to have to pay it back with interest later. So it's not really worth it to me. I would rather give it in little amounts and have these other surprises along the way. All right. Now, these are some of the things that I've learned from different parts of the world. When you're on the East Coast, be direct with people. Don't expect super niceties, and don't take it personally. They're not being rude. That's just the culture. They're very direct. You'll come to appreciate it the longer that you're there. But if you're from the Midwest or the South or somewhere where you're used to people being very friendly and smiling at you and asking you how your day was, the best thing you can do when you're on the East Coast or parts of Europe is just don't expect that. And if you let go of the expectation, then now you're not offended at the way that they might greet you, which doesn't mean anything. They're not being rude, or they're not having a problem with you or something. That's just not in their culture to go over the top friendly with you. Okay? The next one is that a warm smile, this is kind of the flip side of that, a warm smile is always welcomed. It's never wasted. So sometimes when you're in certain parts, people can kind of be taken aback by your warm smile. They might ask you, why are you so happy today? And you can say, I'm happy many days. Why not be happy? Okay, but you don't need to be offended by the fact that your warm smile might be unexpected. And as I said, your warm smile is always welcomed and it's never wasted. Here's the next one. Help others wherever you can. Be courteous. So if you see another parent struggling, recognize what they might need and just offer to help. They might refuse it, and that's okay, but you can always offer. The next one. Avoid herd mentality. So just remember, when everyone's rushing to the front of the lines, oh my gosh, I flew with an airline I don't typically fly with the other day, and I said, oh my goodness, I think this is why I'll go back to my airline that I typically fly. The people were heathens. The flight attendants were getting so mad. They were like, nobody's listening to me. I felt like they were having a tantrum over the microphones, but no one was listening to them. They kept telling them, don't block this aisle, and nobody would move. It was like they were so afraid they weren't going to get what they needed. If you have to gate check an item, okay, you have to gate check an item. Like, just remember, you will find a seat. You will find a restroom. You will get your bags eventually. We don't have to crawl over others to get what we want. We're all going the same places. Okay, if you really are in a pinch, like you're about to miss a connecting flight or something, courteously let others know and ask if it would be all right if you went first, but you don't have to trample over people. Okay, here's something I learned traveling abroad. If you are in Eastern Europe, always carry a roll of toilet paper. Yes. If you're from the States or other parts of the world where we just take this for granted, this might be a weird one for you, but you will suddenly find yourself in Eastern Europe, and not only are restrooms not free, so you need to carry some spare change on you of some sort, because if you suddenly find yourself needing a restroom, there's a good chance you need to pay something for it. And secondly, if you do happen to find a free restroom, it probably doesn't come with toilet paper. So you need to make sure you have some form of napkin or something on your person so that you don't get caught up shit creek without a paddle, if you know what I mean. All right, the next one is to let go of your attachment to the plan. Above all, be in acceptance of what is in the present moment, and you'll be able to make clear and quick decisions to move forward. So the longer you spend resisting and fighting against, but I was supposed to be here at this time and it's your fault that I didn't, the longer you spend there in that energy, the longer it's going to take you to make a clear decision of what we're going to do now that these are the set of circumstances we have to work with. So it's not doing you any good to be over here complaining and playing the blame game. But what is going to help you is to, as quickly as you're able to, accept what is and be able to make a clear and quick decision on how you're going to move forward. This one should have come earlier, but I wrote about it later in my list. To have documentation, all documentation you might need, especially if you are a solo parent traveling with children. So that goes back to the story in Germany. The next one is to layer your clothing. Now, this can be because of unexpected puking, but it can also be because sometimes it's super hot where you're traveling and it's super freezing on an airplane. And the worst thing is being on a 12-hour overnight flight with freezing cold air blowing down on you and no way to turn it off and no way to cover yourself. You will be freezing for the next 2 days. So just layer your clothing so that you can take off appropriate layers and put them back on when you need to. And you can plan accordingly to pack those layers into your carry-on luggage, or at least be able to shove it in there if you don't want it when you're going on the plane. What I typically do is I plan a warm layer that I just shove into my backpack or my carry-on as I am entering the plane so that it doesn't count as a separate item. Or I have to be able to wear it, even if I'm a little bit warm, as I am going through that last gate check, because I know that I'm going to want that layer, so it's not worth me packing it away, but I don't want it to count as a separate item either. So bring that layer and wear it if you can as you enter the plane. The next one is that you need less than you think. And this is one of these that you can certainly take away as just advice for life as well. Pack and buy things that mix and match with each other so that overall you have to take less things. You don't want to pack outfits where there's only one pair of earrings that goes with it. There's only one pair of shoes that goes with it. When you are traveling, this is not going to serve you. If you have room and space for a closet like that at home, go for it. I have since brought this lesson over into my regular life. I buy clothes that are kind of in the same color schemes that go together. I buy shoes that can go with multiple types of clothing that I wear because I don't like taking up a spot on my shelf for one pair of shoes that only goes with one outfit and I never wear it again. It's a waste of real estate in my home. It's a waste of real estate space when I'm traveling. So you may decide to bring that one over into your regular life as well. The next one. If you'd be screwed without an item when you get there, it goes in your carry-on. I think that one is pretty self-explanatory. Moving along. With kids, keep your hands free as much as possible. That means putting in checked luggage whatever you can. Backpacks, I have found, are best for a carry-on piece of luggage. You want to be able to put it on your back and walk through the airport with free hands so you can hang on to children, so that you can get into your purse and pay for things. You want things to be easily accessible, whatever you're going to absolutely need, and everything else goes on your back. You don't want to have to be pulling it along. That just takes up a hand. Okay. Next one, always rest sufficiently before your trip. Travel days are often early, long, and exhausting. So be rested and be hydrated. I can't emphasize this enough. There are so many times where we go into the trip tired. We don't sleep the night before because we're taking an early flight or whatever. And instead of that, we really have to back up to what does our life look like kind of that week or several days before the trip and plan accordingly. You don't want to go into your trip already being depleted. All right. Next, this was a great one that I learned from my mom. Clean the house before you leave. It can feel like an extra chore, but I promise you, as you re-enter your space upon coming home, it's so nice coming home to a tidy and peaceful setting. It does wonders for your mental health to walk in and not be instantly overwhelmed with all the additional housework you feel like you need to do on top of all the laundry you're about to dump that you have to catch up on and all the extra stuff that you have to catch up on from traveling. So if you can just set yourself up to kind of have the dishes clean and have the counters wiped down and have your laundry kind of caught up before you go, it just feels so much better when you come back home. Next, if you have the opportunity, long flights are great for reflection. Have a journal and a pen. Encourage the kids to jot down their daily activities and their favorite memories. It becomes kind of a time capsule or a diary. It's so fun years later to look back and go, oh yeah, I forgot we did that. And you do kind of have to do it each day because often a vacation or a trip is packed with so many things each day that if you can encourage the kids and even yourself to take a few moments at the end of the day to jot down a couple things, it's really fun to go back and read them later. Also, I always find that going away and coming back home gives me a fresh perspective on just life in general. So if you can set yourself up to have someplace, if that's your phone, then do that. I'm definitely a pen and paper person. I really like the process of thoughts coming through my hands onto the paper. And so I love to have a journal with me when I'm traveling so I can jot down just thoughts. Next, have something chewy for the kids to chew on for takeoff and landing. This is just, it helps their ears pop. I always like to surprise, my kids love gummies. You might have your own special gummies if you know what I mean, but that might make you too tired for the journey too. So you have to know yourself. But my kids love gummy worms and like the gummy peaches and stuff like that are great. And we don't have them all the time. So it's a fun treat that when we go on the airplane, these are especially for when the kids are really little. If they can have something to chew, it'll keep their ears open. And so their ears will pop more easily and they won't have ear pain from the takeoff and the landing. And as an adult, you can also use some sort of inhalant, like an old school Vicks inhaler or something like that. They do have natural versions that you can use as well, but something like that will open up your air passageways so that you're less likely to have headaches and pressure from the takeoff and landing as well. Next one. This is a personal one from me, but don't overly pose for your traveling pictures. And I just do this in regular everyday life too. Let your photos be real, especially for the kids. Their real emotions and their faces will bring back the feelings and the moments later when you look back. If every single photo is the same, here's us smiling in front of the Eiffel Tower, here's us smiling in a little boutique, here's us smiling eating some chocolate. To me, those photos don't have any life in them because I told you to smile. It's not really the feeling that was being evoked in that moment. I told you to pose for a picture. So in my opinion, I almost never ask the kids to stop and look at me and smile. I love the candid shots. And when I look back at the photos of the journeys years later, those are always my favorite shots, are the ones where they didn't even know I was taking their picture because I feel like I truly captured the moment in time. So if you're gonna take pictures, I say don't overly take the pictures because it takes you out of the moment. You're not truly experiencing, you're focusing on taking the pictures. But if you're going to take pictures, take candid photos. I promise you they're the best. Next one is this is, again, just a very practical tip. But if you fill that water bottle that I told you to bring and you just open it up without releasing the pressure first, after the air pressure has changed from the ground to 10,000 feet, it will squirt everywhere, all over you, all over your neighbor. Nobody wants that. So before you open up the water bottle to take the first sip, you have to open up the lid and slowly release the air pressure. And when you'll kind of hear, it's like opening a carbonated beverage bottle. You hear like a shh. And so once that air pressure has released, now you can screw the lid back on and you can open it up and take a drink of water. I promise you, I've learned this the hard way many times, that if you forget and you just open up that water bottle, it has the potential to even squirt up over the seat and soak the person behind you or in front of you. You don't want that. Sometimes those flights are really long and you don't want to piss off your neighbor. So just release the air pressure on the water bottle, okay? And this happens again when you come back down. Next, be present. Don't cling to your expectations of the trip and don't lament what you don't get to do. So don't spend the last day of the trip saying, oh, we didn't get to do this. We didn't get to do this. Oh, we said we were going to do this and we didn't. That is the quickest way to just ruin the gratitude of all the beautiful things you just experienced. Instead, enjoy what you do get to experience and let the rest go. My next tip, don't wish away any part of the journey. Just embrace it. Okay, and some of those mishaps that we talked about before, like missing connections or getting stranded in different countries, don't wish any of that away. You never know what kinds of synchronicities are being orchestrated by the universe. So instead, just accept what is, embrace it, watch your focus, be grateful for each twist and turn along your planned journey. Watch for unexpected opportunities and connections. Look for the happy accidents. There are so many examples I could give you of times we got stranded, and just like the party we had in the hotel lobby in Germany, there were other times like we got stranded in Turkey for 12 hours. We were stranded in the Istanbul airport, and we found this little like play area where Elliot wasn't even walking yet, so he was crawling around like Pigpen from Peanuts. There was literally dust clouds all around him. He was filthy, but he had the best time. And if I would have been so worried about, oh, we're not going to do that, I would have missed out on the opportunity of watching how gleeful he was, because he was at the age where he didn't have any kind of concept of plans, expectations, timelines. He just knew his mom and dad were letting him crawl around and have a good time. So if you can try to see it from the kid's point of view, a lot of times it helps bring you back to now. Just let go of some of those expectations and just embrace the moment. And it might actually surprise you the great fun that you can have in those spontaneous twists and turns. The next one is that the kids will look to you for how we feel about new situations. Now, I kind of alluded to this earlier, but let them see you embracing adventure and enjoying the journey together. Be observant when you're unsure, not fearful. So if you're trying to figure out what you're going to do, look around, assess the situation instead of immediately jumping to, what are we going to do? Oh, then this isn't going to happen. Then this isn't going to happen. Just remain calm. And that's what we talked about being able to make a clear and quick decision about how you're going to move forward. Next, now we're going to talk about tchotchkes and souvenirs. So here's what I think. A symbolic memento that you will use in some way is great. But no one needs the useless things that you're just going to sit around on your shelf that say Chicago. You know, like, what does that actually mean to you? Is it worth taking up space on your shelf to remember, oh yeah, that's that little tchotchke I bought in the Chicago airport because I felt like I needed to come home with some kind of a memento? Like, really? Is that worth taking up space in your home? Or is there some other way you can hang on to the experience of that trip? Or here's another crazy idea. Do you need to hang on to the experience of that trip? Or can you truly just experience it? That one you'll have to decide for yourself depending on where you are in your journey. But no judgment here. This is just what I've learned. Okay? Next, this is kind of on the photos again, but take photos only when you feel called or inspired. Don't necessarily take photographs everywhere. Take part in the experience. Don't miss it by photographing it. Okay? We kind of already touched on that. The next one is a practical one again. Use restrooms whenever you see them, especially the free ones. For instance, I lived in New York City for 7 years. My husband was there for 12 years. A free restroom in New York City can be hard to come by. It's not that you have to pay for them so much, is that they're just unavailable. You can't just walk into any store and be like, can I use your restroom? 9 times out of 10, they say restrooms are not open to the public. They're only for employees. So when you see a public restroom, use it. All right. And the final tip I have for you today is to be open-minded and curious when you're traveling. Not critical. So you are stepping into often a different culture, a different way of life. Even if you're just within the United States and you're going to a different part of the country, it can be like immersing yourself in a whole different culture, right? So instead of comparing everything to the way you do it at home, just kind of let all that go, and you'll have the most fun if you can just fully immerse yourself in the experience. I know you've heard the saying, when in Rome, ... do as the Romans do. But this will bring you so much joy and happiness if you just try things. Try the foods you've never had before. Go the places you wouldn't normally go. Try the experiences that you won't have an opportunity to try again when you're back home, because you already know what life is like back home. And so why are you coming on this adventure? To have more of the same? Or to maybe expand your edges a little bit? I know I'm definitely in the camp of always wanting to expand my edges. And if you are listening to this podcast, I'm guessing it's quite likely that you're that type of person too. So to expand our edges, we must often find ourselves on the edge of uncomfortability. Sometimes things don't feel completely familiar and safe. And feeling a little bit of uncomfortability is where the growth happens. So I invite you to embrace the new, embrace the unexpected, allow the twists and turns that inevitably happen along any journey, and you will find the joy in every opportunity, experience, and journey. I wish you happy trails and continued discovery on this journey of life. Until next time, I'll see you next week. Thank you for tuning into Star Potential with Julie Jo Hughes. If this episode resonates with you, I invite you to take 2 seconds, scroll down, and click 5 stars on the rating. It's a fast and easy way to help the show gain exposure and momentum. If you're loving the show, I invite you to leave a quick review about what you love. Reviews are like gold to podcasters. And to show my gratitude, you'll be entered to win my monthly giveaway when you send me a screenshot of your review. I also made you a gift. It's a 9-minute simple gratitude meditation with singing to help you practice mindfulness. Just visit me on Instagram at @TheJulieJo or find the link in the show notes. Thank you for your love and support. Until next time, keep shining your light. And that's a wrap.